when it comes to Prince William, when people say, well, he's not doing enough, well, I think he's just making sure that those children have the best possible grounding. And I reckon that will pay off big time in the long run. So again, to choose their projects that they like goes back to the Prince Philip advice. Choose something that really interests you, where you really feel you can make a contribution, and do it differently, because every time there's a new generation of the royal family, things change in a very subtle way.
Hi all, Kinsey Schofield here with probably my most favorite author in the entire world, Hugo Vickers. Hugo, the audience loves you, I love you. You've been very busy, and it's a super secret, so we can't talk about what you've been working on, but I love that I have friends in high places.
Well, that's nice.
I know, I don't want to get
What about that word probably?
Let's, you and I have had a busy few weeks when it comes to royal watching and royal commentary. Well, first of all, I wanted to tell you back in Los Angeles, because I almost missed this being over here. Harry and Meghan attended one of the World Series games, and you know how they put celebrities on the Jumbotron?
Right.
They put Harry and Meghan on the Jumbotron and announced them, and the stadium booed them. I mean, what's your
Well,
reaction to that?
well, I mean, they've put themselves out there, and that's the sort of thing that's going to happen
Right.
because, I know I've said this before, but they've gone down the celebrity route, and they have to keep coming up with new ideas, which they seem to be amazingly good at, but they don't last very long. So then they have to come up with another one. They seem to be, I mean, you'd know better than me, but they seem to be coming up thick and fast at the moment.
Oh, it
And
feels like, I mean, it
it's like a
feels
machine gun.
relentless.
Yeah.
A machine gun. That's such
Yeah.
a great way of describing this. It feels absolutely relentless, because we had a teaser from Meghan, save the date, October 28th, which really, I mean, if you're going to save the date, you would expect something significant on the
You
horizon.
would.
We got $64 candles for Meghan that smell like her wedding, she says. And remember, her at her wedding, do you recall how she was trying to change the scent of St. George's Chapel? She had come up.
Yes.
Do you have any insight into that?
And she refused to have a carpet put down, which meant to say that her wedding dress was kind of like, however much you sweep the floor, it's bound to be sort of grey by the time it comes out. I mean, nobody knows. She made a lot of problems over that. I mean, that was an awful wedding. I mean, it really was. I mean, the person I felt sorriest for at the wedding was
Thomas
that
Markle?
lovely, the lady who was conducting the gospel choir, because that bishop went on. He had a voice from above, which his mum spoke to him and things. She said, "Son, go on." He went on for an extra 8 minutes or something beyond what he was doing. So this poor lady was standing on incredibly high heels, waiting to conduct, because everything is timed when it's
Right.
on television, as you can
Right.
imagine.
Right.
That was not a good moment.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's interesting that they insist on keeping the titles, and then Meghan releases candles with that date. They are not letting go. They are not letting go of their royal life.
But Kinsey, there's a great opportunity coming up, Halloween.
For what?
Well, I mean,
To be a $64 candle? A jar of loose fruit spread?
I think she might be rather appropriate on Halloween, is what I was trying to
Oh.
say.
I love that. We've spent so much time over the last few weeks fixated on non-working royals.
Yes.
Why don't we pivot to some working royals that aren't celebrated as much as they should be? Talk to me about the Duke of Kent, who I surprisingly see pictures of quite often. He is out and about, a social individual, 90 years old, recently lost his beautiful wife that he was just absolutely enamored with until the very end. He's got a great little spirit, doesn't he?
Yes, because I did a book with him a while ago, and one of the things that I put to him was, his devotion to the Queen Elizabeth II, and how he always wanted to support her. And he said, well, that's what it's all about. And he always has answered the call. I mean, facelessly. I mean, at the last minute, sometimes suddenly they demand him to do something. He does it. He's very willing. And then since his wife died a few weeks ago, he has been very active. And I think that's important at the age of 90. and he celebrated his birthday, and been some nice celebrations about that. And he is very much out and about, and he will keep going and right up to the end. I mean, that's what he does. And what else would he do?
Right.
And he loves this music. I mean, his greatest joy is going to the Wigmore Hall, and he loves going there. I mean, depending on what the music is playing. I mean, he doesn't go indiscriminately, but he loves that. I've just done an interview with him actually for, I think it's called Royalty Illustrated, for about his 90th birthday, and he definitely cited that as one of his great pleasures. And his sister sometimes goes with him, Princess Alexandra. So that's nice.
That's so sweet.
Yes.
When it comes to the Duke of Kent, well, I mean, I think his work ethic is obviously something that we should really admire. Is his work ethic a reflection on the royal family's work ethic? Because as Americans, we see a lot of Harry and Meghan, and as you say, they're always hopping and jumping on the next trend. It's, there's a real lack of commitment and consistency.
Well, he was got in to do royal duties very early on. I mean, he was once in a tank in Germany, and he was summoned back because there was a state visit and his uncle wasn't up to doing it. So he had to sort of suddenly go and meet this head of state, which was amazing. And subsequently, he's done a lot. And his sister, Princess Alexandra, she started really doing royal duties when she was about 16. It's actually quite interesting. I was thinking about this because I remember going to the Windsor Horse Show when I was a teenager, and the princes, like Prince Edward and indeed Prince Andrew, they used to, one of the first duties they ever did was handing out a cup at the Windsor Horse Show.
Oh, sweet.
And then following from that, I mean, you will remember when we had our COVID lockdown, we had this thing where the people clapped for the National Health Service every Thursday evening. And those little three kids of, William and Catherine, they were clapping like mad the first time they did it.
So
and we saw
cute.
them doing it. And I remember thinking at the time, they are beginning to do something for the nation. And this is the big difference, the working royal family. And that's why they're trained. That's why they're so good at it. They start so young. And those little kids have been, as you know, they were very much involved with the Platinum Jubilee. They also attended the Queen's funeral, and the elder two anyway, and many other events of this kind. And this is how they're sort of brought into it. So they're trained from day one. And the Duke of Kent, Princess Alexandra, absolutely trained from day one. So the other person who's very busy, of course, is the Duke of Gloucester, who not many people know a lot about, but he's been working away for over 50 years. But when the King and Catherine were ill, he came right forward, and suddenly he was doing, and the Duchess of Gloucester doing absolutely everything. I said to him once, you're in perpetual orbit at the moment, sir. And he said, well, yes, we're three dukes down at that moment, but they were.
I'd like to ask you more about him, but before we move on to that, can you tell me the Duke of Kent, it sounds like he just shows up where he's needed, but does he have passion projects? Is it primarily music? Where does he like to spend his time cause-wise?
Well, he has an enormous number of presidents and patronages and regiments and things. So what he's always done, I worked this out, was like whatever he's presented with, he goes to it with enthusiasm. So one of the things he took over from his mother, Princess Marina, was the Royal National Lifeboats. And there are these stations all around England and Ireland and places. And I think he has a list, and he's ticked off all the ones that he's seen. And there's still one or two that he hasn't managed to get to yet. And the Commonwealth War Graves was another one. I don't know if you've been to a Commonwealth War Grave, but they actually are, listen, I'm talking as a civilian, they look very much the same. But wherever he was in another country, he would go to the Commonwealth War Graves and visit it. And again, ticking them off the list. Now, about 2 years ago, they found some bodies, which, when they were making a canal, left over from the First World War, that had been buried there, that hadn't been found. And through DNA, they were able to identify them.
Wow.
They got in touch with the family, and the families came over, and I think about 9 of them were ceremonially buried. And the Duke spent 2 days over there attending this service.
Oh.
And this meant so much for the families. It doesn't get into the press. It's not noticed. And actually, many members of the royal family, I'm thinking particularly of Princess Anne, they're not thinking about cameras. They're just thinking about what they're actually doing. And that they've invited to come to do something. That is a royal engagement. And that is good enough, whether it's reported or not.
Oh, and I love to hear that. It does feel like they're specifically, when you're around them during royal engagements, it does feel like they are planted in that room.
Totally.
And their ultimate objective is the person that they're making eye contact with or shaking hands with, and that it's not for show. And I mean, not to go back here, but Harry and Meghan Dodgers game,
That's for
that's for
show.
show. That's
Yes.
because these two want attention.
And actually, of course, also the royal engagements, there's a lot of research that goes into it. I mean, the Queen once asked the Lord Chancellor, she said, I've got a man coming up for an honour, and the briefing notes are terrible. Any advice, and he said, well, ma'am, try him on modern art. He loves pictures. And the next time she saw the Lord Chancellor, she said, just the ticket. Yeah. And that shows the care and attention that goes into it behind the scenes. Nothing happens by chance. It's all very well planned. So I had a friend called Tim O'Donovan. His obituary is in the Times. I'm in the Times building, I think, now, so I can say this. It's in the Times today, as we speak. And he made a league table of the royal how many engagements each members of the royal family did. He thought he was doing a great service because he thought he was showing how hard the royal family worked. But, of course, it introduced a spirit of competition between them, which wasn't totally popular in the royal household.
No.
And sometimes they were sort of, it got other headlines like, Princess Anne, hardest working royal, or work shy Will, or
Even
something.
I say that. Is that accurate that Princess Anne is the hardest working royal, or would you slap my hand and say don't do that? Because
No,
that
she's in perpetual orbit, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing her once leaving an engagement, getting into a car, and seconds later, this was at Windsor Castle, seconds later was a helicopter going off somewhere. I think she'd been in Edinburgh earlier in the day. She's all over the place.
she is.
She's incredible. I mean, I know that occasionally her husband, Tim Lawrence, has to say to the private secretary, steady on, just try to stop her doing too much,
I remember, she recently had that accident and was up
Yeah.
and moving almost, immediately afterwards. Just
Yeah.
didn't take a beat, didn't take a breath, wanted to get back to work.
And I think that was much more serious than we realized at the time. I mean, she was found unconscious in the field. Literally, I think they had helicopters out and things looking for her. And somebody, some groundsman suddenly saw the grass moving like this, and she'd been kicked by a horse, we think. She doesn't know.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so she was unconscious, and she was in hospital for quite a long time, and of course at any age, particularly with that age, she's in her 70s, it's quite serious if you
I
get
didn't know
an
some of those details. Those are
Yeah.
very frightening. The fact that they
Yes.
didn't know where she was,
But you'd
and
never know it now. I mean,
no,
she's
I
out and
wouldn't
about.
know because
Yeah,
she never complains, never explains.
exactly.
Talk to me about some of Princess Anne's causes. Does she have specific causes that mean more to her than others? Can you tell?
Well, that again was very interesting because at one time when she was married to Mark Phillips, she was going off to, I think, to Africa for, I think it was to do with Save the Children, which was one of the things she took on very early. And the press all thought that Mark Phillips was going to join her on this engagement. So all the journalists hurtled over there, with their cameras and things, and he didn't. But the editors said, well, have a look at what she's doing. They were astonished. They had no idea how hard she was working. But also, she is so down to earth. If Diana, Princess of Wales, had said something about about children, Princess Anne, what actually Princess Anne said was, you don't have to like children to know that they need to be helped. Now, if Diana had said that, she'd have been flayed alive.
Right.
But Princess Anne gets away with it because she's so absolutely down to earth. You should monitor, have her on Google Alert, because any time she speaks, she always talks good sense. And one of the things she said was that in that interview to the Canadians, the slimmed down monarchy doesn't look very good from where I'm sitting.
Oh.
And of course, she's absolutely right. You need more and more of them. And I think I've probably said this before, but when the King was ill and Prince William hosted a garden party at Buckingham Palace, he got all his young cousins in. So I could pretty much predict, if you were in the lineup, what the King might say to you, so he'd ask you something and, and then he'd move on. I couldn't predict what Mike Tyndall would say to you or Princess Beatrice. I mean, and that's what the royal family needs. They need energy. They need a lot of support because we have enormous amount of charities, enormous regiments and things, and there just aren't enough of them to go round at the moment. So I never thought the slimmed down monarchy was a good idea.
Is it true that was a kind of a quip that Prince Charles at the time made? And he said other things. I wanted to be defender of all
Of the
faiths. I
faiths,
mean,
yeah.
he says other things that kind of evolve over time, or that he might change his opinion on based on cultural, current cultural circumstances. Is that one of those one-offs he said that potentially he was trying to give Republicans a sense of peace, like we're not going to be a financial burden on you. But over time, people organically fell off, and now we're looking at a slimmed down
Yes.
monarchy based on uh, circumstances
Yes.
versus an intentional decision.
It's that new thing which has come to me recently, is what they call optics.
Hmm.
And so when the Queen used to invite the entire royal family, with all the cousins and all the disparate branches, to the Trooping the Colour, and the whole lot of them appeared on the balcony.
And then you just thought, that
Well,
looks expensive.
exactly. I mean, the taxpayer were not paying for these people. They were
Mhm.
the only people who, I mean, the Queen had the civil list, and then some of them as the royal family used to be on the civil list. She took them all off the civil list, except the Queen Mother and Prince Philip, which was very sensible because they don't reinvent themselves. Once the Queen Mother went, once Prince Philip went, that's it. So basically, the Queen is supporting all of them. Of course, the Prince of Wales is supported by the Duchy of Cornwall. But you can imagine what it looked like on Sunday, the whole lot of them. And, are we paying for all these people? It's a bit like, in the days of newspapers, newspaper banner headlines like outside the tube station, Queen's cousin in trouble, and you bought it, and it was somebody you'd never heard of. And you
Right.
happened to be a cousin of the Queen
Right.
on the Queen Mother's side or something. It was
I get
mad.
so angry when those clickbait articles
Oh,
come through, like
you fall for
member
it.
of the royal family deceased, and I'm like,
Yeah,
click, and then
I
I'm like,
know.
who?
Exactly. Sort of Lady Saltoun or somebody, that
I
disparate branch.
just don't know who this person is, and I
Yeah.
was so worried, I literally couldn't breathe.
Yes.
This is kind of in the realm of finances. A lot of questions surround. I saw an article about Prince Edward today about
Yeah.
what he paid for his home. I know that there is frustration right now and a lot of questions being asked about the royal finances and even royal homes. Would a day ever come where royals were expected to pay normal rent or
Well,
as normal as possible to appease anybody that's angry about the situation?
I mean, royal finances have always been a problem. I mean, when the civil list was usually voted for at the beginning of the reign and was meant to last the whole of the reign, of course, it never did, especially with the long reign like the Queen's reign. So every time this came up in Parliament, people jumped up and said it's also expensive and things. And then they do sort of silly things like, for example, quite a lot of members of the royal family live in Kensington Palace. And so you can secure them all under one
Right.
thing. And Windsor, again, you can secure them under one security barrier.
Yeah.
Without extra things. If you chuck them all out of Kensington Palace and pop them into apartments all over London, I mean, you're going to have policemen all over the place.
Right.
It's just not very well thought out.
Right.
And they do have these homes.
Hey guys, who doesn't want energy, metabolic, immune, and skin support? Meet Peak, a luxury brand transforming wellness with the absolute best, rare and precious plants, cutting edge ingredients, and formulations rooted in traditional wisdom. Their science backed botanicals, minerals, and supplements support sustained energy, metabolic function, immune health, and radiant skin, making it easy to live each day with vitality. One of their newest essentials, the Deep Hydration Protocol, is a 2-part drinkable skincare system that keeps your body and skin hydrated while promoting better sleep. Made without sugar, fillers, or artificial flavors, and crafted with natural ingredients for a clean, spa-like taste you can feel good about. Daily use supports hydration, glowing skin, improved sleep, and sustained energy. In the morning, I grab BT Fountain, their beauty electrolyte. It helps hydrate from within, smooth skin, and gives me lasting energy. But in the evening, I'm grabbing for our E Fountain. This is the calming electrolyte that contains that gentle form of magnesium that eases tension and helps me get deep, restful sleep. Wake up rested and stay hydrated all day. Get 20% off for life, a complimentary gift, and explore Peak's clean, pure ingredient products at peaklife.com/Kinsey. That's PIQUE life.com/Kinsey. This is hydration redefined. Try it and glow from the inside out. Back to the show.
Sophie, she just surprises me with how courageous she is. She hops on a plane and goes to some of the unsexiest, most dangerous
Yes.
royal engagements. Tell me what her thought process is like leaving. Is that just does that give us some insight into her personality that she's willing to do these things?
Well, where she was always good, and I know, again, I've said this before, is that the most successful members of the royal family are the ones who support and don't compete. And she's always been in that supportive role. And again, she's found areas. I mean, that's the great thing, is when the king or the queen wants them to do something, they do it. But the rest of the time, they can pursue other interests which they take are very passionate about. And going back to Princess Anne, I mean, Prince Philip said to her when she was a little girl, you will be asked to do a lot of things. So choose very carefully something where you really feel you can make a contribution that'll really interest you as well, because that's going to be very much more positive. And so, and Sophie is amazing. I mean, I once invited her to come and unveil a Jubilee Walkway panel in Horse Guards, and a message came through. Who are the people you're sort of like, hoping was going to sponsor things, and I gave 3 names, and at the reception, I mean, seamlessly, she just talked to those people, and you'd never have known.
Yeah.
And she never said anything. It was just, she just did it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they didn't give any money.
I love this insight.
They
Wow.
didn't give any money, as it turns out.
But she did her her job.
Maybe I didn't follow it up properly.
Let's call them out right now.
Yes.
That's such a sweet story. Have you watched their children and wondered if their children might fit in anywhere in the future? Or do you think that because they have a beautiful daughter and a beautiful son that we do see when there are big royal engagements, but for the most part, they have opted not to have titles. Is that correct?
Well, very cleverly, Prince Edward decided, and I absolutely know this to be the case, that he thought it would be easier for them going through school if they didn't use royal titles. I mean, by law, they are princes and princesses because, as laid down by George V, the sons and daughters of the sovereign and the sons and daughters of sons of the sovereign have those titles. That's absolutely clear. But they don't use them, and I don't think they ever will. Louise, of course, she followed Prince Philip with the carriage driving, and you see her doing that a lot. And she has certainly one of the Jubilees, she was, there was a big picnic in the Mall or something, stalls, I can't remember exactly, and she was going up and down and talking to people. So she does take part in these things, but probably, I don't know, they probably won't.
Really?
I don't know, we'll see.
She looks like a little Disney princess. She is so delicate and sweet looking.
And she's probably not as delicate as you think, because she's going into some sort of, she's in the, I don't know, she's in the corps or the army.
Yeah, you're right.
She's in uniform sometimes.
Very much similar to Queen Elizabeth, taking after Queen Elizabeth. How charming is that?
She was at school with my daughter at St. Mary's Ascot, and they were in a play together, I remember.
Oh, how sweet. I bet that was so fun to see.
Yes.
When it comes to Prince Edward, the work he's taken on for King Charles, is there anything that stands out for you as his passion project?
Well, I've always thought the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme was one of his really big things, which he took over from Prince Philip, and that's been a great success.
And they were very close.
Yes, they were, because people always say, oh, well, that was that time when he was in the Marines, which is pretty grim and deadly, and people say, oh, Prince Philip was so furious when he left. No, he wasn't. I mean, he completely understood it, and it was always a mistake to send him into something so grim as that. And the fact that he backed out early shows exactly how grim it must have been. And then he was allowed to pursue this, the Ardent, as it was called, his theatre company, and it had a bit of a success. But in the end, it'd be interesting to know what he thinks now, but I don't suppose he regrets. Well, he may a little bit, but I think he's very well employed. He
is very well employed.
He is, yes.
You talk about the Duke of Kent, and it's just the longest list of charities that he supports in one way or another, whether he's physically showing up or just offers his support in subtle ways. There's been criticism towards the Prince and Princess of Wales for the way that they kind of narrow down and create projects that can grow. That they start from seeds, but they have incredible opportunities to blossom into much bigger causes. You look at Earthshot, you look at the Early Learning Project with Catherine's Early Learning Project. Do you see the balance that Prince William and Catherine, or work-life professional balance that Prince William and Catherine are trying to create? And do you see the value in this and correct me if I'm wrong, if it seems like a new system that they're trying to
Yes.
navigate.
Well, there are 2 points there, really. I mean, first of all, if you have a hereditary monarchy, as I explained, they are trained from birth, so they're in the system from they're not going up the greasy pole of politics. They're
Right.
there,
Yeah.
and they are aware that they're there by chance of birth. So you have all that. One of the things that was most interesting about Queen Elizabeth II was that for the first 10 years of her life, she wasn't expecting to be queen. So she had this glorious
Blissful.
and happy childhood. The Duke of York was very shy, as you know, because he had his stammer and all that thing, which appeared in the King's Speech and everything. Duchess of York, later the Queen Mother, created a really happy home for him and for the 2 children. And I think I remember talking to one of the private secretaries, and he's saying that his reading, of the situation was that they did not wish to become king and queen at all. They were really very content with the life that they had, which, as he then went to point on, says it was not to say that the Queen Mother didn't enjoy her role later on. But what I'm saying is that she did have that incredible grounding. And we keep hearing about the royal family being dysfunctional. And Prince Charles's childhood was a bit difficult because the Queen was away a lot, and he seemed to mind that sort of thing. I don't think Princess Anne did so much, but he did. And Prince William and Prince Harry obviously had a very difficult childhood. So when it comes to Prince William, people say, but he's not doing enough. Well, I think he's just making sure that those children have the best possible grounding. And I reckon that will pay off big time in the long run. So again, to choose their projects that they like goes back to the Prince Philip advice. Choose something that really interests you, where you really feel you can make a contribution, and do it differently, because every time there's a new generation of the royal family, things change in a very subtle way. There's a lovely line of continuity. And somebody once said about the monarchy, it's never exactly in step. It's either a step ahead or a step behind. It's usually better if it's a step behind and gradually catches up, sort of grandmother's footsteps,
And I've said this before, so I apologize to the audience if they've heard it. But I think what's so unique about what Prince William and Catherine do is they create these initiatives that potentially their children could catch up
Yes.
and take on themselves.
Yes.
Whether it's the Homewards UK, that's something that his children could step in and do in a similar fashion. He was so passionate about homelessness because his mother brought him to homeless shelters, and the early years projects that we're going to continue to develop new studies on childhood upbringing forever.
Yes.
So I've wondered if they created these unique opportunities for their children to just kind of fall into something that they've heard mom and dad talk about a lot at home. They can easily transition into it, and there aren't some of the hiccups that we've seen specifically with Harry, who was kind of lost, and the royal family had to step up and go, let's create this for you so you have a role. Let's create this for you so you have a role.
Yes, that's a very interesting point. I think that's good, and I think it'll be interesting, and if I'll live long enough to see it. But it'd be fascinating to see what those children do, because I mean, you couldn't have invented them on a computer, I don't think.
They're just absolutely precious.
Exactly.
Prince Louis steals the entire show everywhere he goes.
And I think I have a theory. People like to say Prince Louis is a scamp, but I think he's extremely intelligent.
Oh
I mean,
my gosh, yes.
the way he sort of imitated his brother tossing his head back was extremely well observed,
Oh my
I thought.
gosh, he's just precious. When do you think we'd see? Well, actually, I have another question for you first. There are these stories about how if Prince William had his way as king, he would, similar to Denmark, strip everyone that's not a working royal of these titles. And that way it's easier to manage brand-wise, because even if Harry and Meghan aren't working royals, if they're utilizing titles given to them by the family, they still are representing the monarchy in their actions, their associations. And that within this piece, they said that they had kind of, hidden Prince William's, parked was the word they used, parked Prince William's children's titles, similar to what you just said with Edward and Sophie's children. And then Prince William and Catherine were going to allow them to determine whether or not they wanted to follow in their parents' footsteps. Do you think that they would really allow that much freedom?
I would just love to know how all these people think that Prince William is telling them these different ideas that he has.
All right.
I just don't believe a word of it.
Really?
I mean, I think Prince William, people keep asking, you know, well, what sort of king is he going to be? He probably doesn't know. I certainly don't know.
Well, I know he's going to be a handsome one.
Yes, but the thing is that only when he becomes king, you know, that's the moment when, and you know, he probably has some plans, but what was that thing that Emily Maitlis came out with, that he'd threatened the
which he denied.
well, quite rightly. I mean,
right.
Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, he threatened them. I mean, come on. He's not going to ring up Emily Maitlis and tell her. And secondly, he's not going to do something like that. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Isn't that kind? You know, I'm not trying to start beef with Emily, but considering how disruptive and destructive a specific Emily Maitlis interview has been to the royal family, why are we to believe that anyone that was in with the royal family would pick up the phone and make her the first call?
Exactly. That's my very point.
We have to
But anyway, I don't believe any of these things. I mean, people keep telling us what Prince William is thinking of doing. And I mean, he must read, if he bothers to read these reports.
He must almost get, his eyeballs must get lost in the back of his head.
That he's being told all these things, you know.
When you look at his CV, when you look at what he pursues these days, what do you think his legacy will be based on what we see him investing the most time in?
I'd just love to say I don't know, because I think the thing is, it's all up for grabs. I mean, it's all in the future.
Right.
But
I feel like I'm more inspired personally by his environmental work. So a part of me wonders if I'm sensing so much inspiration from him, which I know his grandfather loved and his father loved.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's an ongoing thing. I mean, Prince Philip was talking about the environment way back in the early days of the, even in the 50s, I think. I mean, if you read some of his speeches and things, and Prince Charles then, as he then was, took that on. And I mean, a lot of the things that the present king took on were things that his father was very committed to. And good for him, because he was forward thinking, and that's very important. And yes, so I think it'd be interesting to see, but you know, Prince William has got time to form his ideas, and people spend too much time telling us what he's going to do and this and that. And I think
I know we have to be realistic. They completely shut down when Catherine was sick. We know what they're capable of. We know that they don't pick up the phone and say, "Hey, could you guys stop it? She's sick. We need a break." We were completely out. You know, they shut the door on us for a significant amount of time.
Also, that's very interesting, because they had this memorial service for King Constantine, and Prince William was meant to read a lesson, and King Constantine had been his godfather, and he didn't turn up at the last moment, and everybody was very surprised. That later proved to be the morning that she had got her cancer diagnosis. I think in the olden days, probably even the Queen or Prince Philip might have said, "Look, I'm just got to go off and read a lesson. I'll only be half an hour and I'll be back." He didn't do that. And actually, I really admire that. He stayed with her.
That's right.
And I can completely understand why he couldn't say that at that point.
Right.
But it led, as you know, to a lot of speculation.
And ridiculous speculation. And they had the power to shut it down, but I think it shows us that they're capable of protecting their secrets. So why are we going to believe every article that's written about how ruthless William and Catherine are, when we know that they're capable of keeping a tight lip? We would be so silly to have a discussion about the working royals without acknowledging the incredibly hard work of Queen Camilla and King Charles, who we see so often that I think we forget how ill he is. This is a man who's living with cancer. Queen Camilla, who always stayed behind and allowed him to shine, has really come into her own lately. We're seeing how much she loves reading. We're getting some insight into her personality based on her own library. She's podcasting. Talk to me about, you know, how the king's really come into his role, and how we should admire his work ethic as well, based on his circumstances.
So one of the most interesting things about him when he became king was, of course, he became a different person. And having been, let's say, to go really black and white, these sort of interfering Prince of Wales who was writing to government ministers, although I always thought he was absolutely right to do so.
Oh, really?
Because they didn't have to take any notice of it, and they very often didn't.
Right.
But I mean, he should say so. If he sees troops going into battle ill-equipped, say
Right.
it. I mean,
Okay.
let
Yeah.
them know, you know.
Right. Because he was torn apart for that at the time.
Oh, yeah, but they were always a bit disappointed, I think, when they actually saw the letters. But I also think the letters should have remained private. I mean, that's how he wrote the letter. He wrote the letters privately. He did not write
Should
the
they
letters.
should they have remained private
Yes, they
forever?
Well, nothing remains private forever and ever and ever, but there's a time, I think. I mean, I'm a bit old-fashioned about these things. I think that, you know.
I know, but I also listened to you like talk about reading letters from your ancestors. So I was
Yeah,
like, surely
well,
he doesn't believe they should be hidden forever.
no, I think there comes a point when it's very interesting, but the thing is that then you put all this stuff into archives, and then at the appropriate moment they come out. If they're going to come out too soon, people just won't put them into the archives; they'll be destroyed. And you endless examples of that sort of thing happening. I mean, all those ambassadors who used to write wonderful reports, they don't do it anymore because of freedom of information, and it'll all come out so quickly.
Oh,
So it gets lost for
disappointing.
history. So people don't think these things forward. But as far as so the interesting thing about him was the real point was that, okay, let's say you think of him as like an interfering Prince of Wales who's, you know, telling his views to all sorts of people. The moment he became king, he became a sort of very wise head of state with an enormous backlog of experience that he could bring to bear. And then he could, as head of state, have private meetings with Macron, Biden, whoever it is. And he did. And of course, he was really getting into his stride, especially with those foreign state visits and things, when he was struck down with the cancer and then couldn't do so much. So he is out and about. I mean, there he was last week at the Vatican. I mean, that was incredibly important.
It was.
Amazing and really exciting, actually.
Can you tell, based on where the king spends a lot of his time since he's become king, where his heart really is when it comes to some of these causes? Has he stepped back and allowed Prince William to take on the environmental space? Are you seeing any patterns like this?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's quite a lot going on behind the scenes, but in fact, of course, it's exactly how it should be done, soft power, you know. So, as I say, he can talk to President Macron one-to-one, and President Macron will now listen to him and discover that he's actually, you know, he met General de Gaulle when he was a little boy, you know, so he's, you know, he goes back a long way like the Queen did, you know, it's amazing. So he has that influence, and I think, I believe, I mean, I know that he's so hardworking that, you know, he has sometimes been found asleep at his desk at 11 o'clock at night, and somebody says, "Time for you to go to bed, sir," you know,
Oh,
because he just goes on working, and he only has a very, very light lunch, a sandwich at the most, and he's always working. And I guess that's inevitable because he became king at at an advanced age, and he's only got a very short time to get it all done, and that's
Right.
the thing. So he is amazingly hardworking.
he is.
Yeah.
Watching Queen Camilla kind of step up, especially when the king and the
Yeah.
Princess of Wales had to
Yes.
step back. Were you surprised to see how much work she did? I remember there was an issue with a helicopter, and instead of being turned off or frightened by that issue with the helicopter, she kept going. I mean,
She did. She took a
she's
car,
proven
yeah.
to be quite fearless throughout the last
Yes,
few years.
and when you think that in her earlier life, you know, she was basically, well, I'm going to use the word. I mean, actually, it's a great advantage to her. She has a sort of a laziness in her character. No, but it's good because it means that she has not been vindictive towards people who were nasty about her when she was Mrs. Parker Bowles, you know, and they were vile. I mean,
Yes.
up until the day of the wedding, she was the hated mistress, and then, whoops, hello, she's the supportive wife, which she has been ever since. It's extraordinary. I saw it happen,
Yeah, I
literally.
know you did. You did. You
Yes.
saw that evolution. And
And so, you know, she who had not really done an awful lot, certainly in the public arena, now she's all over the place. And I mean, I remember thinking it's absolutely fascinating that she distributed the Royal Maundy money and everybody was delighted that she did it. Think back to, you know, thought like Mrs. Parker Bowles distributing the Maundy money. I mean, come on, you know, what's going on?
I know.
It's extraordinary.
I
Well,
know.
good for her. And of course, you know, being a bit naughty. I mean, we've seen one or two pen incidents and things in
Yeah.
public, you know, and all that stuff. You can be sure there are one or two of those in private that she has to deal with as well.
Wow, and you know what? I had completely. That's such a great example of the presence, the calming presence,
Yes.
this her own little soft power, how she can swoop in and de-escalate a situation.
Yes.
How lucky is
She's
the
very good at
monarchy
that.
to have
Yes.
her. That's a very important, probably underappreciated role right
Yes.
there.
Remind me off camera to tell you another story.
Oh my gosh, I can't. I love these stories. When it comes to, we started off with Harry and Meghan, absolute PR nightmare. In Los Angeles, there's a Los Angeles-based website called Ranker, and Harry and
Yes.
Meghan are among the 3 most unpopular celebrities of 2025, sandwiched between Sean Diddy Combs, a convicted sex offender. So that gives you some idea. They're big booed at Dodger Stadium. That gives you some idea of the decline in their relevance and popularity. You just talked about how villainized Queen Camilla used to be as Camilla Parker Bowles. Charles Ray still says someone threw a loaf of bread at her. I don't know
No,
if
I don't
that's
think
true.
so. No.
I don't know if that's true. I've heard conflicting reports, but it was bad when it came to the way that she was treated, likely by the public as well as by the press. I know that she hid for a while, like just wanted to go away and just protect her energy and protect her space. Has the evolution in her PR and how she's become this kind of quiet superhero to the royal family been hard work, or has there, I mean, to me, I see it as it's all of the work she put in when the King and Princess of Wales were ill, or has there, to Harry's point, been a lot of manipulation behind the scenes to change public perception of Camilla?
There certainly was some, some PR work by a difficult character called Mark Boland, who, was very much how they were going to bring her forward when she was still Mrs. Parker Bowles, and that the gradual things, and the photograph of her coming out of the Ritz and that sort of thing, those were all staged, no question about it. But since then, I mean, I defy you to mention a single incident where she has done anything that you could criticize in public, or indeed we haven't even heard about it in private. You don't hear stories about
No, she's
her.
kind of cheeky and wonderful. She's
Yeah.
kind of a great, what we hear, that she has a great personality. She makes the king laugh.
Yes,
We
yes,
hear
she
that
does.
she's
Yeah.
incredibly kind in real life, and that she's fun-spirited. She loves her grandbabies, which is always an
Yeah.
endearing
And you
quality.
don't hear stories about staff leaving and not liking to work for her. She's very good with all of them.
So it's more than just her work ethic. It's also,
yes,
just her personality in general.
but she too, of course, suffers from the media. But occasionally, like the other day, did you read that she had her eye on Royal Lodge? I mean, absolutely
Oh
ridiculous.
my gosh, I know. I keep
That's
saying
totally
that.
ridiculous. I mean, I know for a fact that she didn't, because she's got a perfectly nice house of her own in Wiltshire.
She didn't and doesn't. Yes,
It
I think
doesn't
that's important to
exactly. Who would
say.
want to take on that huge place?
Yeah, that's a very important thing for you to say. And also, I think it's important that we acknowledge too that while Mark Bolan, is that the name?
Yes.
While Mark Bolan did some backflips to try to change public perception through, media strategy, there was also Team Diana, who went out of their way to make her the
Yes,
heinous villain in this, and not that things weren't complicated, but there was
Yeah.
a lot of leaking on both sides.
Well, there's certainly a lot of leaking on the Diana side, no
Mhm.
question about it. But I think that for all the amount of PR that people have, eventually it's the actual
Authenticity. It boils down to
exactly
authenticity.
the absolute, the genuine article that comes through. And so I think I've always felt that the Queen Elizabeth II, her great skill was that she had a total awareness of her role as queen, and she just went straight forward, and she was not swayed by public opinion to the left or to the right. She did not change her hairstyle. She did not go to the opera when she didn't want to. All those sort of things. She just went, and it paid off.
Wait, I have a question for you that's going to make you pull your own hair out.
Okay.
When everyone lost their mind over Catherine, the Princess of Wales, being too blonde, her highlights being too light, is it a wig? All of these conversations. I tried for the life of me to find the switch in Queen Elizabeth, where she goes from her signature brown hair to white hair. And I could not find one picture. I could not find one article. How does she magically transition from this young woman to, the queen we all remember, know, and love?
Well, that's very interesting. She did used to have, a couple of little white strands in there. And what she actually did, I think it's I think I can't remember whether it's 1992 to 3. It's in the early 90s. It's the Balmoral holiday when you don't see her at all. That's when it all grew out, and so that's what we need to pin this down, I think,
Yes.
with photographs, because and you will find. I mean, I remember thinking, so Princess Margaret always remained with sort of auburn hair right up to the end,
Legend.
and looked good. And the Queen decided, no, she was going to have the white hair, and she was going to wear the big glasses, and she'd even wear the glasses even in the carriage going to the state opening of Parliament. Okay, I understand she wants to read glasses when she's reading the speech. The Queen Mother never was seen wearing glasses in public. I mean,
But
she
she
just
might have a drink in her hand.
she had the thing printed big enough so she could read it, you know.
Clever.
I did once see the Queen Mother in a car going down to Royal Lodge in the Cromwell Road with the window open, and she was wearing glasses then because she was reading. She didn't know she was being watched.
by clever Hugo. Oh, that's very interesting. So now we see that, because I thought that commentary around Catherine was really unfair, and it made me think, well, when was the Queen allowed to age gracefully or have that moment? And thank you for answering that question for me. I knew, I should have known you would have the answer.
Well, I did look into it, but I can't remember exactly which year it is, but it's either between 1992 and 3 or 1991 to 2. It's around about the same time as or just after the Mertzov film, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Hugo Vickers, one of the greatest royal authors in the entire world. Jump online, find his latest book, read books that exist that you haven't read before, because I promise you they will not disappoint. Hugo, it's so great to spend time with you in real life. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.